I hope you're all doing well. Thanks for joining me for this live stream. I just thought it would be fun to go live and do sort of a little music theory lesson with a little bit of writing involved. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to write, kind of going from scratch here, but I'm doing it on purpose to show you the process, kind of like why music theory is involved, how it's involved, and how fun it can be to feel like you know what you're doing and you're doing something creative and expressing yourself. And part of why I want to do this is because I firmly believe that what's missing from most music education these days is creativity. Music is a language, and in order for you to be fluent in a language, you got to be able to speak your own ideas. Imagine learning Spanish and only ever memorizing travel phrases and memorizing like the way certain words look that are like your favorite food or something. Like, you're not really speaking the language at that point, right? You're just memorizing travel phrases. And I feel like a lot of music education is geared toward learn this song, learn this technique, and there's no creativity involved. So today I kind of want to show you how you can use music theory to actually create your own music and how freeing it is. And I think especially a lot of how do I put this? A lot of I get a lot of questions in the comments on YouTube, and a lot of them have to do with things like how much should I practice every day, or which caged shape should I use in a progression, or and a lot of those questions come down to personal preference and learning how to basically set up a playground for yourself to practice being creative. So that's what we're going to do today. And in the meantime, I think we're going to talk a little bit about chord voicings, chord progressions, and just putting together music that sounds good. So right off the bat here, I think I've got a few lessons on YouTube here called Music Theory for Guitar, Major Scales, where I just talk about how you make major scales. And then I talk about how to make chords from scales. But I've also got a whole series on my Patreon called Music Theory for Guitar 1 and 2. It's a whole series. I think there's like 19 lessons that really help you understand chords in a key. But today I'm going to go through it a little more quickly. But if you need to know more, $12 a month, check out my school. I think it's totally worth it. I've got a few patrons in the comments here that might agree that it's totally worth it. So let's pick a key like, let's do the key of E minor. So we can start with the cheat code here, which is just if we get an E minor scale, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. And we know this is an E minor scale because the minor scale formula is whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, and then to get back to E, it would be another whole. That is the formula to make a minor scale. So this is why it's an E minor scale. Now, the cheat code here is if you know how to make a minor scale, you can turn that minor scale into a set of chords. And this is, I'm going to turn them into seventh chords actually. E minor 7, F sharp half diminished, G major 7, A minor 7, B minor 7, C major 7, and then we've got D 7. These are the chords in the key of E minor. Now, if you were to look up just like a chord chart or something, we could figure out we could figure out what these chords are, and this would be a totally awesome way to do it. I can run you through a couple basic voicings of these chords so that you can play around at home, mess around. What am I saying? Play along or mess around or whatever feels right to you. So let me do my little zoom in camera here on my hands, and I'll show you a couple great examples of versions of these chords. So if you want to play an E minor chord, that would be the one chord in the key of E minor. You can also add a pinky down here, or you can lift a finger and just do a single note like that, right? That's an E minor 7. If you want to play an F sharp half diminished, you've got first finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, and then you just want to make sure you mute or just kind of be lazy with your fingering so that you're muting the A string and the E string, right? And then G chord, we all know a G chord. Some people like to play G major 7, like this, where it's almost like you play a B minor chord, and then you keep these 3 fingers where they were barred, but you scoot your first finger up here, and then you do the same kind of thing we were talking about with that F sharp half diminished, where you mute this string, and that would be a G major 7. My favorite kind of easy way to play it is first finger here, second finger here, and then lazily mute that string. Beautiful chord, right? Here's an A minor chord. This is the 4 chord in the key of E minor. Lift a finger, now it's an A minor 7, or put a finger up here, also an A minor 7. If you want to know why, ask me in the chat. We'll get to it in a bit. Ask me any questions you have. This is live. Here's the chat, right? You're welcome to ask me a question, and I'll try to keep an eye. But I also want to keep moving here, make it fun and interesting for everyone here. So that's a B minor 7, or this is a B minor chord. This is a B minor 7. You can also play a B minor 7 if you know a B7 chord, right? This is a B7. Just lift this finger and let this open D string right here, this one ring. Play that. Mute this bottom string, right? Beautiful B minor 7. I will explain Rahul Gupta, what is the difference between a major and a major 7? That will be a really fun thing to talk about. Here's a C major chord. Here's a C major 7. Basically a C chord where you just lift your first finger, turns it into a C major 7. Beautiful chord, right? Here's a D chord. And here is a D7. Really nice. So what are we going to do with this information, right? Let's go back to this iPad. One of the easiest things you can do is you can pick a pattern. And I shouldn't say pick, you can choose, right? Choose a strumming pattern. The classic strumming pattern would be the classic down, down, up, up, down, right? That's a great strumming pattern. Sounds like this. Right? And if you want to see what that looks like on the guitar, we've got down, down, up, down, 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 up, down. Generally speaking, when you're strumming any strumming pattern, the idea is if you were to mute the volume, the strumming pattern would look like this. Your arm's just moving consistently, especially in like a 4/4 pattern like this. And this is because downbeats, 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to accent those with a down strum, and then 1 and all those ands you want them to be up. And it just so happens if you just keep moving your arm, you're going to be counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we've got down, down, up, down. And if you mute the volume, it's going to just look like I'm doing this, right? This is how all strumming patterns are not all, but nearly all. So there's a strumming pattern. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw just a grid. This is something you can do at home. Just a great creative starting point. Make a little grid like this. Each of these little sections here just represents 4 beats, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just plug in some chords and see how they sound, right? I'm going to start with, well, you don't have to start with E minor. You could start with any chord you want in the list, but I'm going to start with E minor 7, and then I'm going to play, let's see, I'm going to play C major 7, and then I'm going to play C major 7 again, and then I'm going to play G major 7. And the cool thing here is maybe one of these could be just like a regular C chord, and the next one could be a C major 7. So now I just wrote this on paper. You don't have to do it on paper first. You can explore and then write down what you figure out. But let's see how this sounds. We've got E minor 7, C, C major 7, G major 7. That's kind of a nice sound. maybe we can tinker with it and we go, well, that's nice. What if we put like A minor 7 here instead? Let's see how this sounds. And I'm going to turn my guitars, the volume. I picked the wrong guitar. It's too loud for this. I got to be gentle with it. So we got E minor 7, A minor 7, C major 7, G major 7. Let's see how that sounds. So we've got, I'll make sure you can see what I'm doing here. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That sounds nice. I just wrote some music. If you're trying to do this at home, let me know in the comments, what you came up with based on this list right here, because what a nice little list of chords. And remember, you don't have to make them 7th chords. You could make them all triads, which, would just be E minor, A minor, C, G, which would sound like this. Also really nice. Right, super nice, and this is just a great starting point. So one thing really cool we could do from here is we can take these chords and we can look at what actual notes are in the chords, and we can switch over to the camera guitar where I can help you sort of understand what's going on here and why, and how you can take this whole kind of system of chords and go up the neck. It'd be really fun. But I'm going to take a pause for questions because we got a few questions here, and then we'll get into the next stage here. Maybe we'll do some recording, maybe we'll play some bass, maybe we'll do some programmed drums and end up with kind of a cool sounding thing at the end of this lesson here. But let's see. I'm going to pull up the chat here. Let's see. What do we have here? Brian says, "Howdy, Scott. Just popped in before heading back to work, but I do have a question. I have a lot of musical sketches, and I'm not sure how to expand them into a song shape." So this is a process that takes a long time to learn, and the best way to start is to have a bunch of song ideas that are kind of formless and void, right? Kind of nebulous, funky song ideas. I'm working on a series right now on my Patreon called The Songwriting Pyramid, where I talk about the creative phase where you practice just letting go and just making these kind of blobs of music. And then the next phase is you take the ones you like, your favorites, and you start editing them and sort of using songwriting tools to sort of develop them into something that feels more like a song. And then the final phase, the polishing phase, is where you sort of commit to those details and record the song or just have like a playable version. And there's tools that go along with each stage of the process. But Brian, part of it is developing your ability to smash two sections together and sort of figure out what would make this section complementary to this section. Like how can I write something that complements another section? And maybe that's something we can talk about as we move into the recording software part of this lesson here today. So good question. I'll give you a couple tools, but it's also something that takes a long time, a lot of practice. And if you check out my Patreon, we do a lot of weekly community challenges, which are like, here's a writing prompt. And I think even just writing in community and getting tips from other people about, hey, how did you develop that into a longer thing? It's really helpful to be able to talk to a bunch of people about it too, rather than just one expert. So let's see, we had another question. Rahul says, what is the difference between major and major 7? Well, let's talk about that. So there's a couple ways to look at it. And again, I have lessons about this kind of thing on my Patreon. But one of the ways to think about it, and maybe this would be a good time to step over to the camera guitar, which I'll do in a minute. But first, I want to lay out a little system here. So a major triad, a major chord, right? A major triad has basically 3 notes with intervals between them. So you got a root note, which is just the starting note of your chord. If you go up a major third, and then you go up a minor third from there, those 3 notes together make a major triad, also known as a major chord, right? If you were to flip this relationship, where it was minor third and a major third, which these are intervals, which again, I could go into detail, but we don't need to go into a super long lesson here. Minor third first and then major third is what's called a minor chord, right? So if I reset this back to a major triad, a triad is a major chord, excuse me, a triad is a chord that has 3 notes, essentially. So triads can be major, minor, diminished, or augmented. So if we go major third, minor third, that's a major triad. We can add another note to this triad, which I'll show you on the camera guitar in a minute here. If we add a major third to the end of that triad, we end up with 4 notes: root, third, fifth, and 7. And this is what 7th chords are. They're a triad where we basically add another interval of a third at the end. And if that interval at the end of a major chord is a major third, it's called a major 7 chord. If it's a minor third, like this, that would mean this note is flat. That is called a dominant 7. And you recognize these. This is called. Here's the camera guitar, and we were in the key of E minor, so I'm going to put the E root note there, and then I'm going to go, there's our half, whole, and then we're back to E, right? E, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole, right? So one of the coolest things about chords in a key, which is I think the single most important thing to understand as a guitar player, that if you want to write music, if you want to play music with other people, chords in a key is one of the most important concepts. And again, you know, not to toot my own horn too much, but I just finished a series I'm really proud of on my Patreon called Music Theory for Guitar 2. And in that series, we lay out not just the chords in a key, but also harmonic and melodic minor and things like secondary dominants, which are kind of extra chords that end up in a key pretty often. But if we're just talking about the basic chords in a key, we get the E minor chord by playing every, hang on a sec, there we go, every other note starting on the first note of the scale. So the E minor is based on every other note, which the cool thing about a scale is every other note is always either a major third or a minor third. If you don't know what intervals are, a minor third is basically the distance of a whole step and a half step combined. So the distance from E to G is a minor third, a whole step and a half step. A major third is a whole step and a whole step. So the distance from E to G sharp would be a whole step and another whole step. That's a major third. So this E minor chord is made up of a minor third from E to G and then a major third from G to B. Like just like we were talking about on the iPad earlier, this is a minor chord. If we do another little leapfrog, we add an extra note from the B to the D. This is how we turn a triad, a 3-note chord, into a 7th chord, where we're adding basically a 4th note to the chord. Kind of cool. So these are the chords that I was just playing, right? Here's the G chord. Here's G major 7, right? Here's A minor. Here's A minor 7. Here's B minor. Here's B minor 7. Here's C major. Here's C major 7. And here's D major. And here's D major 7. Right? Those are all the chords in the key of E minor for the most part. There's some other extra sneaky ones, but we won't talk about those today. So the chord progression that I wrote, which I forgot, I gotta double check here. And then I can pop this onto the iPad here. So, I forgot how to do this. There we go. So we had E minor 7, and A minor 7, and C major 7, and G major 7. So, once we know what the notes are in the chord, we can mess around with voicings. And a lot of people talk about this idea of inversions. And so basically, if you play a chord, root, third, fifth, that's a triad. If you play it third, fifth, root, literally the same notes, but we're starting with the lowest note as the third of the chord. That's called first inversion. Second inversion is when you start with the fifth. But here's the thing. Most guitar chords aren't really in order a lot of the time anyway. And so we kind of think more on guitar instead of thinking about inversions specifically. We just think about different voicings. On top of that, we've got a pretty crazy thing going on with guitar where this note right here is identical in pitch, not even a different octave, just the same note as this note right here and the same note as this note right here. And what that means is I can play an E minor right here, I can play an E minor right here, I can play an E minor right here, and it's all the same notes, right? It's pretty weird how this works. And so on guitar, it's more useful to think about, like, what are the different places I can play these chords? Like, here's an E minor chord, here's an E minor chord, this kind of thing. And so different areas of the fingerboard have different advantages, disadvantages. Basically, some areas are easier to play, other areas are a little bit more difficult to play. Not that that's a bad thing, it just means, it also means fun, right? So let's take this progression. Let's just start with E minor, A minor, C major, and G major, and let's just find other places to play this progression. And I'm gonna actually go back to the scale circle. Raul says, should I just remember the shapes as you said and care less about the individual notes every time I play? So this is a good question. There's a sort of like a circular pattern that you can go through of sort of memorization. And what I mean by that, let's go to this as many shapes as we can reveal here. So what I mean when I say that is, if we get rid of all this extra stuff for a second, let's get rid of all this. If we just look at, let's say, an E minor chord, right? There's a sort of trust system you can do where you can go, okay, I know this is the root note of this shape. And as long as I know the root note is an E, then the rest of the chord makes it an E minor, right? The same with this shape up here. If I know this is the root note of that E minor chord, and I know this shape, or even this shape, right? I can trust that this is an E minor chord without knowing for sure all the notes in the chord. And this is kind of a neat way to think about the caged system as kind of like a cheat code, especially if we go and look at a major chord. Let's look at a G chord. Here's the root note, G, B, and D, right? Getting, uh-oh, feed's dropping in and out. That's not good. Let me check how my connection is doing here. I gotta check some things. If we're losing connection, that's bad. Let's see. Looks like it dropped out for a second. Are we back to normal here? Are we okay? Did we lose connection? Hello, hello. How are we doing? What's going on? It's been struggling? Is it doing like a robot sound, or is it doing something else weird, connection-wise? True S says, you good? I did see there was a little dip in my internet service for a second. That could have been the problem. But if you can hear me, cool. So, oh, it buffers sometimes. Shoot, that's not good. So the caged system basically is like a system you can trust the shapes, right? And what that means is the caged system spells C-A-G-E-D, C-A-G-E-D over and over and over again. And what that means is if we go to like a G chord, a G is made of G, B, and D. Well, that means if we find a C-shaped G chord on the neck, that the next shape will always be this A shape. And that means the next shape will always be a G shape, which in this case is the open G chord shape, right? And that means C-A-G-E-D, so G-E means the next shape will always be an E shape. The next shape after the E shape will always be a D shape. And if you don't know the cage system very well, I'm going kind of fast here, but I've got a whole course called Cage Basics 1 and 2, really walks you through this in a spoon-fed kind of way, gives you fun exercises to think about, lots of stuff to think about here. I'm trying to go quickly here because the goal of bringing up the cage system here is to talk about this sort of circular thing that happens where you can get to know the cage system and you can trust that as long as you find a root note that you know that the rest of the chord is X major chord, right? As we just showed with the G chord. If you can find the root note for the C shape and you know that root note is a G, the rest of the chord is going to be a G major chord, right? You can just trust that. And there's a lot of value in that being kind of a nice shortcut when it comes to getting to know the fingerboard. But as you get to know music theory better and better, it becomes more and more useful to know, am I playing the root of the chord? Am I playing the third of the chord? Am I playing the fifth of the chord? And for that, like what's so cool about that is that you get to figure out, okay, if I know where a root is, and I want to turn this chord into a major 7 chord, I know that the note to turn that into a major 7 chord is always a half step behind the root note of a chord. So if I'm going here and I'm going, okay, I know this is a G, or I know this is a G, so I know if I make this shape that it's going to be a G chord. Well, I also know, okay, if I can find a root note and I can go back half a step and include that note, I know now I can play a G major 7 chord. And one of the coolest things is, we'll do some recording, we'll talk about this, but one of the coolest things is if you know the chords in a chord progression and you know the Roman numerals that go with those chords, like the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, this kind of thing, there are 7th chords that naturally fit in the key that you can add as a guitar player if you feel like it. Even if the rest of the band's just playing a G chord, you could play a G major 7 or a G major 6 or something like that. And sometimes those chords are actually easier to play than the triad version of the chord. For example, here's a D-shaped chord, and my face looks funny because I'm really leaning in to be able to reach up and play this. This is a hard chord to play. But what's cool is if I want to turn this into a major 7 chord, I've already got a root down here, right? I don't need an extra root note right here. Well, the 7 of the chord is always a half step back, so this is a much easier chord to play, and it's a very cool chord, right? Very cool chord. Same with this C shape here, right? C-shaped bar chord, kind of hard to play. But here's a G, go back half a step. Now I've got this beautiful G major 7 chord, right? And so I guess what I'm trying to say, because I forgot whose question that was. It was Raul again. Should I just remember the shapes, as you said, and care less about the individual notes every time I play? Basically, I'm answering your question, which is you can totally start by learning the shapes, but then over time, get to know the root, the third, the fifth of that shape so that you can morph that chord into any version of that chord you want. True S Armor says, learn your intervals. I would say yes, but some people would think, oh, this is a major 6, this is a major 7, this is a major 2, where for me it's much more useful to think this is the root note of the chord, this is the 5th of the chord, this is the 7 of that chord. That kind of information for me always feels more relevant because in the key of the song, I'd much prefer to know the 7th of the 1 chord is much more useful information to me than how far away one note is from another note, which is what an interval is. So True S, maybe that's what you mean when you say that, but yeah, very interesting. So where were we going with this? Well, we started with a basic chord progression in open position, right? And then we kind of talked about how we can move that up the neck. We talked a little bit about how we can turn those into seventh chords and stuff. What I want to talk about next is, if you don't mind, if it sounds fun, I want to record just like a little beat and then do a little rhythm guitar, maybe a little lead guitar, and talk about how when you're playing guitar with other people, just like I said earlier, if they're just playing the basic triad versions of chords, you can play seventh chord versions or even other fancier versions of the chords up the neck, and you maybe don't even have to worry about like the root note a lot of the time. You can play parts of the chord because someone else is already taking care of the whole triad, especially if you're playing with a bass player. Let's do that. That sounds fun to me. What do you think? Sound fun to you? I think let's do it. Also, I have a funny surprise that I want to bring up later. But it depends on what kind of question I might get. By the way, is the feed stabilized now? Everything seemed like it's connected and good. I did notice there was a little bit of a dip earlier. That might have been what you were experiencing. Sorry about that. So let me open some recording software here. Lauren says much better. Good so far. Okay, thank you. Do let me know in the future if it's dropping out again. Thanks for quickly letting me know what was going on there. Okay, so now I'm gonna get a Logic Pro project going here. We're gonna go like this, and you will see my screen right now. So this is Logic Pro. This is recording software. I am gonna start the fun way for me, and that is I'm gonna build a drum track. And it's too fun not to build a drum track. Ooh. Can you all hear that okay? That's pretty fun. I kind of am surprised that I like the sound of that drum. I'm gonna just use it for now. Let's see. I'm going to start with a very simple beat, and maybe if anyone would like a little lesson on how to make a beat interesting and fun, I can actually, I'll do that. Why not? Here's a fun thing to think about. If we can start with just the most basic, I'll even draw a beat in, because it's kind of fun here. So what we have is, we've got a measure, right? This is measure 1. We've got beat 1, 2, 3, 4. If I just hit play, 1, 2, 3, 4. See that? And what I'm going to do here is I am going to draw a kick drum on 1 and 3, and then I'm going to draw a snare on 2 and 4. And then I'm going to pick either, also I can totally show you what these look like. If you've ever seen a drum set, this is the kick drum. It's very bassy. I'd like actually this one to be more bassy. Let's see. That's nice. I want it to be. So bass drums can have a lot of different sounds, but this is kind of nice. I'm going to go, that's nice. This one over here is called a snare drum, and I want it to be dead as well. I like that. That's nice. So that's your kick and your snare. This is a hi-hat, and you can make it sound open, or it also, you close it with your foot down here, and it makes this foot close sound. You can hit it with a stick, close it with your foot. This is also the sound of it hitting it when it's closed. When it's open, it sounds like this. So that's that. I might make a beat with that, or I might make a beat with the ride cymbal, which is just kind of a big cymbal that's very sloshy. It's almost like it has its own built-in reverb in a way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of those two. I think I'm going to do hi-hat. And I'm just going to put hi-hat on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and this is the reason I'm doing it this way, even though I could probably perform it. I want to show you how to start with a very simple beat. And I want to figure out how to make this beat a little more interesting. So as long as you start with kick on 1 and 3, snare on 2 and 4, and you have something sort of keeping the beat, this is your easy, basic starting point for making drums. So now what we can do is we can say, okay, if we want to just stick with the eighth notes here, I'm going to add another kick right here. Let's see how that sounds. That's kind of nice. Maybe I'll put a little open hi-hat here like this. That's kind of cool. So now what we can do is we can create basically the magic recipe for making any music interesting is repeat with changes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to join these together, and we're going to zoom in again, and I'm going to take the second pass of this drum beat, and I'm going to change it the second time around just a little bit. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll put a tiny little ghost snare ghost note like this. You can almost barely hear it, but I'm also going to remove that little thing. And now what I've done is I've just slightly changed it the second time through, and it just makes this beat suddenly a bit more interesting. Check it out. And another thing you can do is you can repeat it again and then change something else just slightly more. And you don't have to change the end, but I kind of like to. Let's see, maybe I'm just going to listen to this last one. I'm going to add another little ghost note right here. I don't know if this will sound good, but I'm just trying something. Let's see. That's kind of fun. So now what I've done is I've taken a very, very simple first measure here. And I repeated it once, changed it a little bit, and then I repeated that entire thing and changed it a little bit. And now we have a drum beat that just kind of tells a little bit of a story. Listen to this. Tell me if you agree. If you don't agree, uh-oh. You see what I mean? I just think that's kind of interesting. So now what I'm going to do, I'll plug my guitar in, and we'll just play that pattern. Also, I got to double check that my stream has not cut out or anything. Okay, we're good so far. Nice. Gabor says P. I hope that's a good. I hope that's a good thing. Let's see here. So I'm gonna get a little reverby thing, and I'm just gonna strum those chords that we came up with earlier. What was that? E minor, A minor, C major, G major, and I'm gonna keep it triads for now. I'm gonna keep it simple. I might clip this beat making thing, honestly. Thanks for the advice, True S. That's part of my goal here with making all these live streams. Fun to clip stuff. So let's see. Oh, I'm not plugged into the interface. Ooh, I need a sip of coffee. I've created a guitar church scene for myself on this live stream, but I haven't had any questions that are going to warrant taking us to church yet. But yeah, let's see. So that sounds fine. And again, we're going to keep this super simple. What's our da 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 ba ba da ba da? Yeah, keep it super simple. E minor, A minor, C major, G major. Hopefully I'm in tune enough. Wow, it's almost like I played that the worst I've ever played in my life. Let's do one more. I just want to show you, I'm not playing anything fancy. That's gonna work. Let's listen back. Honestly, my timing's pretty sloppy, but it's fine, because we're just messing around, right? What I am gonna do though is I'm gonna roll off some of this low end that is. That's fine. I think part of the reason it's sloppy is I might need to put a little low latency mode. So this is going to be basic triad guitar. So now, Mayank says, does being high help with writing? I'm going to say probably not. You got to be good at writing first, would be my guess. If you're not good at writing, being high is definitely not going to make you good at writing. Let's put it that way. So now, I'll go over to the camera guitar and sort of, maybe we'll just play this track and see how it sounds before we kind of like dive into... Yeah, before we dive into like recording anything, let's go back to the camera guitar, and I think I can do a thing here. Let's see. Here we are over here. Let's go back to the key of E minor where we belong. So here's E, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. Oh, here I am. Hi. And what we could start with is let's take one of those little versions, higher up versions. Let's take one of those higher up sort of versions of this chord progression without worrying about seventh chords or anything. And let's see if we can layer it over this progression. Let me hit play on it. Let's see how this sounds. So 2, 3, 4. That's kind of cool, huh? Right? Now, for me personally, I feel like having more space from the other guitar player, meaning tonally being high enough that if I'm playing something different from that guitar player, I want to be high enough frequency-wise that it doesn't feel like we're interrupting each other at all. So I might do something like this. Right? And I think that's going to sound even better. Let's see. Oh, I'm getting that sound breakup thing happening. Let's see. I think I know what could be causing it this time. So even a very powerful computer has a hard time handling all the software I'm doing right now. So, well, let's see. Sound is stuttering a bit. It isn't terrible yet. Okay, good to know. If it gets terrible again, I might just reset everything. It usually takes just a couple seconds. But let's try this higher up version and see how it sounds. Thanks for helping me monitor my live stream because I can't hear it. So here we go. Higher up. Right? Still sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? So here's the thing, like we were talking about earlier, if someone's playing just triads, that doesn't mean you have to play just triads. You can play seventh you can play ninth, you can play sus chords, you can make things really interesting. And so what I want to do here is I want to find, here's an E minor, here's an E minor 7, which oddly enough, there we go. We got a low E in there that makes it an E minor 7. So here's the thing. This right here, E, B, D, G, those are all the notes in an E minor 7 chord. But someone else is already playing the E, G, B. So if I play this, technically all I'm playing is a G chord. But that's because G, B, and D, that's the root, third, and fifth of a G major chord, but it's also the third, fifth, and seventh of an E minor 7th chord. So if I were to play this over the E minor chord, it would sound really good. And then if we move to the next chord, if I were to play, here's an A minor, right? But an A minor 7 is A, C, E, and G. So if I were to play this, wait a second, that's a C chord. Well, yeah, that's the root, third, and fifth of a C chord, but it's also the third, fifth, and 7 of an A minor chord. So it's going to feel like you're playing the wrong chords sometimes when you simplify your chords to play with other people. But this, by itself, is a C chord, but if someone else is playing an A minor chord, this is an A minor 7 chord. Weird, huh? So now if I go over here and I play this, well, that's just a C major 7 chord. That works just fine. And then the next chord is a G major 7. So here's a G chord. Now, here's that root note, right? If we go back half a step, that gives us, this right here gives us all the notes we need to play a G major 7. But I don't need to play that G because the other guitar player is already playing a G. So I can play what looks to be, this looks like a B minor chord. And it is the root, third, and fifth of a B minor chord, but it's the third, fifth, and 7 of a G major 7 chord. This is where it gets weird to learn how to play rhythm guitar, because you got to think differently. You don't have to cover all the bases. Someone else is already doing it. I should say, if someone else is already doing it, you don't have to cover all the bases. You don't have to play the root note of these chords. Pretty weird, huh? So let's try it. Let's see how this sounds. I'm going like this. Let's just see how it sounds with this progression. Maybe I don't have the right voicings and it might not sound super nice, but I bet it will. Kind of cool. And if we put some bass in there, it will sound even more cool. It's kind of a sneaky thing we can do. Let's do that. Let's record. I'll record that part actually, and then I'll record some bass, and you'll hear how, oh, the bass makes it feel even better, because a bass's job is mainly to emphasize the root note of a chord. That's what most bass players are doing. How's the audio, by the way? Is it better? Is it worse? Or is it the same? How are we feeling here? Is our software, are we breaking up? Don't break up. Let's stay together. Okay. It is crackling. Okay. Let me just do a quick reset. It's not very hard to do, so I'll start here. You won't get any audio for a second, but I'll just set up this next recording. Okay, is that the same or better or worse? Could be worse. Let's find out. How's that sound? Oh no, worse. Okay, hang on a sec. I think I know what the problem is. Okay. How about now? Better, worse, the same? Dang, still crackling, huh? Sometimes these things, that's gremlins, I tell you. Let me close some other software here. Well, maybe I just got to shut down the camera guitar. That usually helps. But then we don't have the camera guitar for the rest of the lesson. Let's see. Back with coffee and now there's popping. Okay, hang on. One more thing to try here. All right. Better? Worse? Same? Hopefully better. There's definitely sound now. Okay, sweet. All right. No more camera guitar for today. My computer just can't handle everything we're doing. Also, let me know, I just clicked something. Is it worse now? Okay. Wait, it's all better? Everything's perfect? There's definitely, oh, okay, there's definitely sound. Okay, we're good. Nice. Thanks for your help. I appreciate it. Live streams are like this. So no more camera guitar for today. Technology is intense. Wild. So let's record this thing that we talked about, right? And I don't know why. I always assume you want to see the software, because that's what I like to see. But I think you probably would prefer to see me playing this part on guitar. So, and probably. Good, perfect. So let's do this. Interesting, huh? Weird. Okay, Spooky likes the software too. But that's the gist of that guitar part, right? I also love the recording software. So what I'm going to do now is, this is the, let's say this is the 7th chord guitar. And kind of interesting, huh? So let's get a bass line going in here, and let's see, input 2, bass, and let's get you off. Let's get you here, and I'm gonna go get some bass. Hello, bass. I love this bass. Okay. So. Usually it's good to adjust the gain to sort of your next instrument, but I'm not gonna mess with the gain on my interface. I'm not gonna adjust the gain because I want to be able to play. That sounds pretty dang good. I'm also gonna go in here. There's a cool little customization I can do where I can do low latency monitoring mode. So I'm going to start by, I feel like I'm in tune, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. We're just messing around. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just playing root notes. Then I'm going to mess with root and fifth of the chord. And then from there, I'm going to mess around with playing some more like bass-line-y kind of stuff. But we'll keep it simple at first. And I'm going to explore. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, so this is what it's like to write. You're just kind of screwing around. I do want to roughly focus in on these kick notes. Boom, 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 right? Roughly I want to focus on those, but I don't have to hold to that really religiously. But let's start with just roots. Oh, forgot the... Lauren, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. So this is basically basically just root notes, right? I'm playing an E, I'm playing an A, I'm playing a C, and I'm playing a G. And if we just keep it super simple like that, that's how it sounds. Right? Nothing to it. I could also play roots and fifths. And the cool thing about bass in particular is anytime you find a root note, the fifth is always the same note. Is always the note on the next string down. So here's the root. If this is the root, this is always the fifth. Right? So if I'm going to an A here, going to a C, going to a G. And what's cool about what's cool about thinking about roots and fifths is if you play the root on the first beat, right, the first beat of the chord, you can kind of play just a little bit of an accent with the fifth. So that's what I was doing there. I was going root, fifth root, root, fifth root, root, fifth root, root, fifth root. True S Armor says fifth is above the root, fourth is below. Yes. Let's see. Above meaning toward the ceiling, yes. But you can also find the fifth by going down one string and up 2 frets, so. Right. Or, yep. I always think of above and below tonally. So above for me means higher pitch, lower, below means lower pitch. But some people like to think of the ceiling and the floor, and it gets messy. I don't think there's a correct way to do it, but I like to think in pitch always. So anytime I say above, I'm thinking higher in pitch. When I say below, I'm thinking lower in pitch. So that's the most basic bass line. You can also think about walking, doing little kind of pentatonic walks on your way from one chord. Right. So I might just tinker with this bass line a little bit. Yeah, so I'm playing around a little bit here, but let's see. That's kind of a nice little bass line. So let me just tidy that up in software here. Wow, that is a buzz, isn't it? I still haven't fixed that. So what I'm gonna do here is just give it a little mixy poo here. I'm gonna give it a little, we'll just make it louder for you so it's easier to hear. Sound nice and loud compared to my voice. That's kind of fun, huh? Okay, so I'm gonna take a little comment break here. See what y'all are saying. Let's see. Spooky says, if you had to record on a PC, what would be your DAW of choice? I'm currently using FL Studios. So if you don't know what a DAW is, I know you do, obviously, Spooky, but a DAW, D-A-W, stands for Digital Audio Workspace. This is a DAW. This is a recording software, essentially. And different softwares work differently depending on the kind of thing you want to do with them. Yeah, Spooky is using a software called FL Studios. Chad Miller prefers Reaper. That's, I think, a great starter because it's, I'm pretty sure it's free to try, and it's not very expensive to own. I grew up on Apple computers, and then when I started getting into music, Apple was like the industry standard for recording software, so I've kind of just stayed with Apple because of that industry standard thing. So I use this software that I'm using here called Logic Pro, and the cool thing about Logic Pro is that its baby brother, GarageBand, is basically the same software, and I love it, but it's like, what, I think $15 to get started. Logic Pro is basically GarageBand with a ton of extra options for professional recording software. And GarageBand's a great starting point. I have never recorded anything on a device other than a computer, so I'm not really a fan of like iPad or phone stuff, but people do it. And yeah, Chad says GarageBand is a great scratch pad. Totally agree. And this is how I like to think about writing. Is like I was talking about earlier with the pyramid approach. Like, start by just making soupy random blobs of music, like I just did. I'm not in love with this. This is like music practice, right? You got to practice writing music. Not everything you write is going to be a masterpiece. Even if you are someone who writes masterpieces, right? You're going to write some weird stuff. Even Stevie Wonder wrote some weird songs, you know what I'm saying? Weird songs that made it on albums. Never mind songs that Stevie Wonder wrote that probably never made it on an album. You know, like, everyone is practicing writing. And so if you start by just getting into the habit of writing regularly, you know, sometimes software is really helpful. I love using software to write, and I think if everyone's down with it, I might write something else, maybe a little bit more fun. I don't know what's going on with my hair. Every day it's different. But let's just keep looking and see if there's any other questions here. Spooky had that one. Nep says, please make camera guitar video, usual tutorial videos. Yeah, I mean, I've made hundreds of them for my Patreon, if you're interested. But I plan on doing more like that on my YouTube channel. Yeah, let's see. So we had a lot of issues here. Yeah, I thought I saw another question up here, but maybe not. Well, that's okay. What software is that for the fretboard and notes? Basically my video editor and I made it. So yeah, it's not a software you can buy off the shelf. Josh says, write any songs using basic modal progressions. Totally. I love writing progressions in Dorian mode especially, but I also love borrowing things like Mixolydian in a major key. But I don't do a ton of like really consciously modal. I just do a lot of borrowing, I think. Okay, yeah, does anyone else have any other questions? Let's see. Chad says, Jeb says, can you try writing in 6/8? Yeah, I think I'd like to write something that's kind of indie pop, but I don't want to write in 6/8 today, but I'll write something. Chad asks if I find Toontrack products helpful. I honestly don't even know what that is. I don't buy a lot of products. I have in the past, but not even a lot. I just bought things that I needed. Here's the thing. I think it's time for church, because this is a great, interesting question. Let's see. I will ignore the stupid questions. Thank you. Something I want to talk to you about here, and we're gonna go to the Church of Guitar for a minute, okay? So, oh, I'm tangled. So, welcome to the Church of Guitar. Chad, your question, do you find Toontrack's products helpful? Brings up an interesting thing for me to think about, and I want to do a little bit of preaching, just about guitar, just about music, right? Here's something I want you to think about, okay? A lot of people wonder, what kind of gear should I buy? What kind of products should I buy for guitar? What kind of jam tracks should I be using? And to me, this question makes no sense. It's kind of like asking, who's the best person in the world, or which car is the best car in the world, or rather, I guess, which vehicle is the best vehicle in the world? Like, is the train the best vehicle? Is an airplane the best vehicle? Is a truck, a car, a semi-truck, a submarine, a boat? What's the best vehicle in the world? And there's something obviously missing from that question. You can't like quantify a correct answer there, because the answer depends on what you're going to do with that vehicle, right? The answer depends on what you're going to do with that gear. So when people say, what gear do I need? I have to ask, what are your goals? And if you don't have guitar goals other than, I just want to be a good guitar player, that is not a guitar goal. That's actually a meaningless goal. You need your goals to be much, much, much more specific. And then the gear that you want to buy should be because you're trying to reach a certain goal, right? And because it helps your workflow when you're trying to do that particular thing. Do you get what I'm saying? So like, when I'm writing music in Logic Pro, for example, most of my goal is to write songs that I can bring to my band, and then we can record that. So I don't have a ton of fancy software that I'm recording with, because my goal is not to get bogged down by making the most perfect recording, because I'm just going to show it to my band and we're going to play it live and we're going to kind of refine that song and tinker with it. And we're going to play it together for a couple months, and then we will record that song. And historically, that I haven't been the one recording my band, but I am starting to do that more and more. So now, because my goal is to start recording my band, there is certain gear that I need with respect to that goal. But if I don't have a goal like that, then I don't need any particular piece of gear, right? In other words, what I'm trying to say is any gear that you need should be with respect to a goal that you're trying to reach. And if you're buying gear without a goal, like, that's pretty weird, right? That sounds like you're actually a gear player and not a guitar player, right? You want to create goals and then try to reach that goal, and then the gear that you need will be obvious, because you'll be like, well, if I had this, it'd be much easier to reach my goal. Anyways, hopefully that makes sense. Sermon over. Let's write some music. Okay, so I'm going to save this little thing, and I'm going to start from scratch. And I think what I want to do is, I don't know. Let's just see what happens. Let's write some stuff. You can ask me questions about it. We'll call this live YouTube March, what is it? 14th? Okay. Live YouTube, March 14th. And we'll do a new one here. And, yeah. And I'll show you my screen as soon as I get this up and running here. Okay. Yeah. So if anyone has any other, I mean, it's a good question, by the way. Did True S, True S says, right, my goal is to be authentic, which means all theoretical questions mean you're right. Interesting. I mean, your music goal is to be authentic, or are you just playing? Let's write some music. So, I'm gonna start by making a beat. I'm gonna make one with my audio, with my MIDI controller here. Of course, if you've seen a few of these live streams by now, you know that a MIDI controller does not have any built-in sounds. It just controls sounds in Logic Pro. So I am gonna find a drum kit that I like. That's fun. That's intense. I do love this Motown one. That's kind of nice. Let's see, do we want to do something kind of fast, kind of slow? I'm gonna pick a random tempo here and just see how it feels. Okay. That's kind of fun. I don't love this snare. I don't need to get too picky, but that's better. That's mine. Whoa. Okay. That's gonna be fine, I guess. Okay, let's just do that. Picking. So I'm gonna try to keep it simple with my MIDI controller here. I agree that it's trash, but I in order to get other snare options, I gotta get a lot fancier with my software, and I don't know if I'm ready to do that, but maybe I'll just do everything super dead like this. That's kind of fun. A nice dry little thing here. Let's see. I don't know what I'm doing yet. And I gotta turn this down so I can really hear the click. Let's see. Let's see if this was even in time. I mean, I did quantize it just quickly here. So, maybe I want something a little more slow jammy. That is kind of nice. This one's kind of fun. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna do that same thing I did earlier, where I just tinker with this beat a little bit to create let's try this. I don't know if let's try this. There you go. That's something. Doesn't have to be amazing, just the idea is we'll do a little ghost there. I really like that. Let's see if this works. That's fun. Now, this is like a pretty bassy kick drum. I really like it, actually. And I'm trying to figure out why. Oh, the analyzer's off. Yeah, that's nice. We'll keep it. And then let's just do some bass. Bass first. I don't know what we're doing. Let's see here. Come on. Oh, always input 1. We gotta do. And I'm gonna do this little low latency mode thing again. Where are you? Low latency mode. And then let's get out of here. I just want to make sure that I'm recording with good timing here. It sucks to record something and then later you find out it recorded later than you played, but that's kind of fun. But I like this amp too. There's a certain tone I'm chasing here. Let's see. That's nice. Maybe a tad too bassy, but it's good. Throw a little compression. I like this little FET, vintage FET thing. And then I'm gonna go somewhere around here, little. And let's turn you down a little bit, beep, a little bit here. I'm actually going to do the input gain like this. Good. I don't mind a high ratio for bass. Oop, but not that much reduction though. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing yet. I don't have a key picked out. I am going to tune really quickly. Just make sure. I actually like to tune to the fretted notes that I'm in the general area that I'm going to play. So rather than tuning just like my open notes, I'm going to tune to kind of the frets in the area that I'm going to play. It's like a sneaky little recording trick I learned from this cool producer I worked with once from LA. At least I think I learned it from him. Okay. I feel good about that. And see. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to start with a bass line and then I'm going to work backwards to like a chord progression. We'll see. Let me know if you prefer to see the bass or if you prefer to see the recording software. Yeah. That's kind of a funny bass line. Let me listen back to it. That's kind of an interesting little bass line. Maybe what I want to do, I want to make a B part to it. So I actually kind of like that first part. Kind of fun. And then I don't know, something where it's like a different turnaround the second time. So let's see. First time through, I've got boom, ba-da-da, da-da, ba-da-da, da-da, boom. Something like that. If I put a pause there, that sounds like a little more intriguing. So I kind of like that. Let's try it. So we got that's kind of sick. I kind of like that. I am going to actually do a keyboard first, and I'm not a very good keyboard player. This could be a bad idea, but it just feels like it needs a little keyboard. Let me see how I did here. And let me make it hit a little harder for you out there listening. Does that feel good? Kind of fun? I don't know. We're just messing around. I keep bass. Okay. I like having drums, bass. Let's just try a keyboard. And then I know this is a guitar channel. Maybe we should probably play some guitar or something. Let's see. Oh yeah. The White Stripes, Black Keys question. Thanks for joining. I think, oh, wow. Sorry about that. That is my alarm letting me know that my parking might expire shortly. So it's a good excuse to have to slow the stream down. Super simple chords. Let's just see how this works. I like this. 2, 3, 4. That's kind of fun. Let's see. That's kind of fun. Let me throw a guitar on there and then see if we can come up with a second part before I have to go move my car. Let's see. Guitar. Let's see. True S says, do you produce too? I mean, I do this. I'm going to start probably doing a lot of mixing for my band and recording. but we're sort of feeling it out because it's a lot of work. And it's if it's my own band, I'm definitely not getting paid, so it's kind of a labor of love, you know, type of thing. So let's see here. Sorry, I probably just blasted your ears. My apologies. Okay, let's do a quick little tune here. And while I'm tuning, I see a question from True S that says, what's the difference between producing and mixing? There is a little bit of crossover sometimes, but generally speaking, producers have a lot more creative say and a lot of creative direction. Sometimes it's like, we should use these amplifiers, we should use the, like, you shouldn't play them in this section like you were in your rehearsal, and you may need to do this with your bridge. Producers tend to be a lot more creatively involved, and engineers tend to be sort of running the equipment, right? Setting up the microphones, dialing in the preamps, compressors, stuff like that. But there is a lot of nuance with different producers are also kind of engineers. Different engineers are also doing production. Kind of tricky. Let's see. So here we go. Yeah, engineer mostly does mixing, but not exclusively mixing, because they're also setting up all the microphones and stuff, right? Let's see here. I think I'm just gonna get a little guitar tone going, and I know that it's gonna need kind of a, yep. Just don't want to hurt anyone's ears. Okay, this will be fun. What do we got here? I don't know if I love this tone yet, but let's just try it out. I already forgot. We're in the key of G minor. I'm not liking this tone at all, but the cool thing about this software is I can fix it later. Here we go. Something like that's kind of fun. Let's see. That's kind of fun. Okay, so unfortunately, if I don't call it a day, I'm probably gonna get a parking ticket. So, it's beginning to go wonky again. Well, maybe that's a good time to quit too. And it looks like I got some stuff to figure out with my equipment anyway. So, bummer. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. I'll see you next time. I hope you have, great day, happy practicing, and see you all later. Peace out. Goodbye. Check out my school.